Hi, and welcome to another installment of Professor Gerbrini's Playhouse. Today we're going to be working in Gleim for just a few minutes. For those of you that have purchased this, hopefully most of you at least have the hard copy book. And if you do, I would appreciate if you would bring them to class, because this way if you have any questions about how to identify where it is in the book you should be working, I can actually point things out to you from your copy of the book. But for those of you that have purchased it and you have online access, yours may look something like this. You'll have some kind of a personal classroom that you can work with. And so right here is my personal classroom. And you can see here I have the 2018 edition of the CPA review system. And so I can click on that. FAR stands for Financial Accounting and Reporting. That's the book I was interested in because that's the class I'm teaching. Also, we have EQE Test Prep Instructor software. That's my version of the software for the books that we will be using. They provided me access to the entire suite of EQE texts. We will be working out of either the Financial Accounting 20th edition for those of you that are in intermediate accounting, and for those of you that are in my accounting information systems class, we will primarily be working out of EQE auditing and systems. I saved my 20th edition in case somebody has an older version of the book, but I will predominantly work out of the 21st edition. Okay, so the most frequent question I'm asked is, how am I able to keep up with what we're doing in class, what we're doing in the textbook, which is written by Spiceland and published by McGraw-Hill? How can I keep up with the material in Gleim? Well, they do have a nice crosswalk for us to be able to use, and the crosswalk is copied and posted to Georgia View, and so you can look it up. But even beyond that, there's been some additional questions that have come up. So I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on this. If you have the prep software, you should be able to answer questions online. So if I just click on EQE Financial Reporting, this opens up here. It gives me basically my little web page here that I can work from. And hold on, let me get rid of something here. Show all. I don't know if you guys get this, but every time you download a file, it shows you what you've downloaded and you've got to go ahead and get rid of it because it stays on the bottom of the screen there. All right, so you can do, I can create study sessions, test sessions, all kinds of neat things. This is where I create your quizzes for class, right here, Exam Creator. And so I go ahead and build your quizzes using questions. I tend to select only questions that are in the printed version of the book. So when I go and create a quiz, there are some questions that are only available to the instructor. Because I want these quizzes to be something accessible to you, I make sure that I filter out all those questions that you do not have access to, so that this way you're only getting quizzed on things that you would have access to if you happen to have the book. Okay, let me click on this. Okay, here is just a map between different versions. So if someone has an older version of the book, you can look and see what versions questions tie to which questions, which happens. This is a nice feature. So this is kind of important. So you can scroll through and see, and you'll also see which questions have been added or which questions have been taken away. These questions here that are marked BQ, those are bonus questions, and I believe the questions marked I are instructor questions, and so they will not show up in the book, and they won't necessarily show up in your version of the software. And so, and you can see right here, I, instructor only questions, BQ, bonus questions. These bonus questions, they might show up in your software if you have the software version. Okay, and so that's just one of the tools that they provide to us. Let's go back. We want to go to the subunit cross-references. So up here under getting started, here you notice they'll post what your expiration date is. And so I've got 519 days of remaining of access. Now they're nice to professors. They obviously want us to use their materials and they want us to ask you to purchase the materials. And so they do ask us to use their materials, and they provide it to us at no cost. So nice for us. I know, you know, back when I was in school and I was taking my accounting classes, and this was in the period 1994 through 1998. So I realize for some of you that may have been about the time period some of you were born. But I'll tell you, things haven't changed that much, in terms of relativity. My textbooks back in the day were as expensive as yours are relative to how much money I was making, how much financial aid I had, and how much my tuition was costing me. And so I struggled with the same issues that you guys struggle with. Some of you have more struggles than I have, or more challenges than I have. Some of you may have less. We all have to deal with our independent situations. You'll find with me that I'm very understanding as I can be, and I'll try to work around solutions for whatever problems we come up with. So, at any rate, let's click on this subunit cross-reference and pull this up. And so what we see here is we see a list of textbooks. Okay, these are our intermediate accounting textbooks. These are advanced accounting textbooks that you will eventually get to. And then right down here, we get to specific ones. So these are all hyperlinked. So let's look for ours. We're not Gordon, we're not Kiso. Kiso and Wygant for Wiley, this is like the top selling intermediate accounting textbook out there. We don't happen to use it. I prefer Spiceland because Spiceland came along later, and I think they did a nice job of organizing it. And I'm a big fan of McGraw-Hill, and I'm a big fan of Connect. Nothing's perfect, but I really think they do a nice job. So let's click on this, and now we come up here, and there is the chapter structure for the Spiceland text, the 9th edition, 2018, which is where we are. And we just finished chapter 1. Now remember, we did take an initial quiz on the first day, and that quiz did have questions that came from the early chapter, but that was really just kind of a getting folks back into the swing of things. The quiz that we took last, I believe, was actually the quiz for Chapter 1. Chapter 2, review the accounting process, and then Chapter 3, the balance sheet and financial disclosures. Those are going to be the next ones on our radar. And so what you're seeing here is that the review of the accounting process for Chapter 2 shows 2.1 to 2.4. If you have your hard copy of your book and you actually flip open to, say, the front. Now, I've got mine here. You can't see it because you're just looking at a computer screen. But I flip to the front of my book, and if you go to page 11, if you're in the 20th edition, if you go to page 11, top of the page, it says Study Unit 1, the Financial Reporting Environment. And then what you'll see is a gray box below that. And in that gray box, you'll see 1.1 through 1.9. Next to 1.1, it says Introduction to the Conceptual Framework. 4 questions. Okay, and it starts on page 12. And that's the way each of them work. Those are your subunits. So your study unit is 1, and your subunits are 1.1 through 1.9. And so that's what it's referring to. So chapter 1, Environment and Theoretical Structure of Financial Accounting, is subunit 1. So that means it's, or study unit 1. So that means it's the whole study unit. It's all 31 pages of material, okay? And so that's important. So if we go to the end of study unit 1, which says page 31, boom, flip over to the next page, and we get page 33. That is where study unit 2, the accounting process, begins. And it has subunits 2.1 through 2.5. If you look, it says that chapter 2, review of the accounting process, is 2.1 through 2.4. So we look, it says it covers the accounting system, accruals and deferrals, journal entries, other comprehensive basis of accounting, or OCBOA. Our focus will be predominantly on 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, which is the accounting system, accruals and deferrals, and journal entries. We will probably pay a little less attention to other comprehensive basis of accounting, although we will talk about it a little bit. You'll be reading about it in the textbook. And then personal financial statements we won't really cover in this course. Personal financial statements can be handled differently on the side. It doesn't tie nicely to any particular chapter in the text. Okay, and so again, that starts on page 33. And so 2.4 would then carry through to page 49. So you'd be looking at questions on page 33 through about page 49. And that's how this works. And so you need to use this particular crosswalk. Now this crosswalk is located in the book as well. So if you have the hard copy book, I will give you the page number here that you will go to. If you turn back to Appendix A, which is page 567 in the 20th edition, that's page 567, you'll see the same thing. You'll see the list of textbooks. Obviously, they're not hyperlinked because it is a physical textbook. So you just turn the page over and you're at 568, and now you have a listing similar to the listing you see on the screen. And so you just need to look page by page for Spiceland. And I find it in the middle of page 570, page 570. So page 570 has this list right here in the actual hard copy book. And so when you look, it'll say Chapter 1, Environment and Theoretical Structure of Financial Accounting, Study Unit, or SU1. That's what I was referring to when I said you turn back to the front of the book and you get to page 11, that's Study Unit 1. And so that's the way you need to use this book. Here, let's look at revenue recognition. Revenue recognition has 1.5, Study Unit 3, Study Unit 21, and Study Unit 22.5. That means that the material covered in Spiceland of Chapter 5 refers to material that is included in Subunit 1.5, Study Unit 3, Study Unit 21, and Subunit 22.5. So if I was interested in the material in Subunit 22.5, I could go to the table of contents in my physical book, which I am doing right now, and I look on page VII. They use Roman numerals. Again, most books do for tables of contents. So I'm on basically page 7 because V is a 5 and II is 1. So it's 1 plus 1, so it's page 7. And so we go down and we see Study Unit 22. And then we look for 22.5. And 22.5 says it is leverage and profitability ratios, and it is on page 426 of the text. So then we can turn to page 426 of the text, and then we see the top of it says 22.5 leverage and profitability ratios, and it gives us all of the questions associated with that particular section. It runs from page 426 through the top of page 429 in the textbook. Okay, and so that's how this works. That's how the crosswalk is used. So I know this is a little long-winded. We're almost at about 13 and a half minutes. We'll get up to about 14 minutes, but I thought it was worth the time to put together a little video to explain to you how to use the crosswalk for Gleim. Again, for those of you that are interested in really learning this material and becoming professional accountants, working for corporations or for a CPA firm, going back and taking your CPA exam or even the CMA exam, because really both of them are very powerful resume builders and will really help you towards getting that first job and then helping you in the job. People respect those credentials a lot. There are other credentials as well that are also kind of neat to have, and so we'll talk about those during the course of the semester. But I hope you find this has been helpful. Thanks very much, and I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.